When I lived in the Sinai Peninsula in Egypt, I once communicated with a diving instructor from Israel. As a novice with only experience of 20 dives, I was always looking for new diving sites that could bring more excitement. So I asked him about his favorite dive sites. The 54-year-old dive instructor with extensive experience diving around the world smiled at me as if to say that this was not the first time he had heard such a question. After smiling, he said to me, "Each sea area has a different temperament, and each dive site also has a unique charm. But for beginners, learning to dive in the Red Sea is both fortunate and unfortunate." Seeing my confused face, he continued, "The Red Sea in Egypt is probably the most climatic, ecologically rich, and most satisfying diving destination in the world. While diving at any dive site can be a pleasurable sport, but if you are accustomed to diving in the Red Sea, and then go to other waters with the experience and standards here, then you may need to adjust the psychological gap." When Israel and Egypt were at odds in the last century, Israel occupied the Sinai Peninsula for 15 years. During the Israeli military occupation, Israeli tourists began to dive along the Red Sea coast of the Gulf of Aqaba in the Sinai Peninsula. My father told me about his diving experiences here when I was a child. Later, Israel and Egypt signed a peace agreement to return the Sinai Peninsula to Egypt in stages. For a long time, Israeli tourists could not come back to dive in the Red Sea, and my father had no chance to return to dive here before his death. It was not until the 1990s that the relationship between the two countries was completely normalized that I first went to the Red Sea, which my father had always wanted, to experience diving, and I fell in love with it. I thought to myself, "So you have a plot in your heart?" I interrupted his story and asked, "Which diving spot is your favorite here?" He saw that I didn't want to listen to his nagging, so he pretended to be mysterious and smiled and said to me, "If you love someone, send him to dive in the Blue Hole, for it's heaven. If you hate someone, send him to dive in the Blue Hole, for it's cemetery." Dickens' famous quote about New York was adapted by the old man for Blue Hole diving. I muttered in my heart, "Blue Hole? Is that the Blue Hole in Dahab?" I dived there once and got my advanced open water diving certificate after passing the test there. I was like a pupil who was suddenly told the answer to a question, trying to confirm with the teacher. It is really beautiful there, with deep and attractive blues, colorful corals and marine life, although not many, but the overall impression was great. I try hard to recall the Blue Hole diving experience 2 years ago. To say it is a diver's haven, I could understand, because you will enjoy your diving there. But why he said it is a diver's graveyard? He spread his hands and kept silence, indicating that I can only say so much, and if you want to know more, you have to experience and discover it yourself. So, I decided to go back to the Blue Hole to find out.